AskReddit by Inferno 2808. What is the clearest case of living in denial you've seen? My friend has been talking to this man for 4.5 years. They've hung out maybe 5 times and they usually just hook up and he leaves. He only texts her at certain hours of the day because of his work schedule. He never plans dates for them, or when she does try to plan dates he bails. I constantly ask her why she keeps talking to him and if she really believes they could be something more than once in a while, if even that. Fuck buddies, and she said she just really likes him and wants to be with him. I wholeheartedly believe he has a whole wife and kids. Ex's mom moved to Vegas from Europe. Went broke gambling over 10 or so years, practically homeless. Then she got injured on a casino escalator and was compensated more than fairly with a life-changing amount of money. Guess who went broke again? Pretty much exclusively at the same casino? The casino knew that compo money was coming right back. My dad has PSP dementia. My mom refused to acknowledge that it was a developing problem, because it was an inconvenience to their lifestyle. I confronted her, because he needed to have his driver's license taken away, because he was a danger on the road. My dad impulsively went out one day, bought a BMW without her present, and later drove it underneath a semi-truck. And shocker, that was when she realized he was unwell. I also had to find out through extended family about his accident, because she didn't want to give us the satisfaction of being right all along. This reminds me of when my brother was 13 and I warned my mother that he was showing signs of depression and anxiety. She told me I'm not dealing with that again. I was being treated for depression and anxiety at the time. My brother is almost 30 now and has barely left the house since he graduated high school. He doesn't do anything but play video games. My mother, now deceased, refused to wear glasses because she hated how they looked on her. Instead, she insisted her eyesight was not that bad and the fact we had to read menus to her at restaurants was just a cute quirk. My stepdad once asked when are they going to put the letters on those big green signs while driving on the freeway. I've never gotten in a car with him since. He insists he was joking, but past evidence indicates that he wasn't. Little edit. For the record, I have reported him in the past. I haven't spoken to him in years, and live in a completely separate area of the world from him now, so I have no way of knowing if he still drives. I truly hope not. Got a friend, he's in his 50s, makes next to minimum wage, drinks and eats too much. He and his GF, late 60s, live with a mutual friend. They're discussing adopting a child. Discussing. Makes me think they're talking about kidnapping some random kid off the street. Buddy keeps complaining that normal guys won't respond to him on dating apps and keeps getting hit on by creepy old dudes up, you're nearly 60, and those are age appropriate matches. I am 43 and I'm sort of friends but mostly colleagues with some guys my age but mostly older. They look their age or older. Nothing insulting, just it's less likely that guys have taken care of their skin, dress appropriately for their body types, etc. The amount of complaining they do about women that are too old for them is wild. I have a friend who's 50 this year and complained that 35-year-old women look too old. Another guy is nearly 50 and said he's finally ready to settle down and have kids and can't believe he can't find a 30-year-old willing to do the same with him. Almost all of them have 39 as the max age if they are on dating apps. And they grow more misogynist over time, but mostly sad and frustrated. Friend is an alcoholic and does cocaine nearly every day, binge drinking and doing coke till 7 AM. Gets winded standing up for too long, but he's fine and not going to die because he is skinny and got his liver enzyme checked and it was in the regular. Man, I only drink a bit and my liver enzymes are slightly elevated. The fuck? Hilaria Baldwin's commitment to her fake Spanish accent, even after she was outed as having been born and raised in Boston with zero Spanish heritage. The fact that she changed her name from Hillary to Hilaria as if that'd make it sound more Spanish. I swear to God I've been speaking Spanish my whole life and even grew up in a Spanish speaking country and I have never encountered anyone named Hilaria, ever. It sounds ridiculous, even if it is a real name. Friend diagnosed with diabetes 10 years ago, has needle phobia so afraid of pricking his fingers to monitor his blood sugar so doesn't, and just eats healthy. Due to blood sugar fluctuations, gradually goes blind and kidney fails, 3.5 years on dialysis, then finally gets a kidney transplant. Home again with new kidney, is still afraid of pricking his fingers and decides he will manage his diabetes by eating healthy just like he did for the past 10 years. How did he qualify for a new kidney with self-care habits that bad? My loving, yet abusive and alcoholic father telling me that he has no problems to fix and that whatever trauma I think happened in my childhood is a product of my sick and twisted mind because he was nothing but good to me. My brother is married for the 4th time. My mother blames all his ex-wives. I keep pointing out her son is the common link to all the divorces. I know someone who just blew up his 2nd marriage in a spectacular way, but his family still blames the exes. I'm like, the fuck guys? Close friend with an opiate addiction and her husband who thought she needed morphine infusions for a variety of magically appearing painful ailments. I have an ailment. It's called not being insanely high on morphine. I am a teacher. I have so many parents in denial about their children's grades or behavior. I once had a kid headbutt me and break my nose BC he couldn't go to recess right then and there, but he's an angel at home, where he's only ever playing on a tablet. I also have one parent in particular who has 4 children, and all of them have behavior problems, to the point of multiple suspensions or being made to move schools or teachers, and I have to wonder, after 4 children with issues, is it not possible you might be part of the problem? As a parent, I've never been able to understand the my children are perfect little angels thing when their kid clearly isn't. My kids have flaws, and I will certainly admit when they fuck up. My boys are good kids now, they are 16 and 13, but they haven't always been good. They've not necessarily been horrible, but if a teacher said they'd done something wrong, or had been difficult, I wouldn't say but they are perfect at home BC they weren't lol. My sister wears flannel shirts and has really short hair and drives a Subaru and wears a battle axe necklace and has a pile of Sports Illustrated swimsuit editions and a lesbian pride flag in her room, and my mom still hasn't figured out she's gay. My mother was the opposite. She knew my sister is gay by putting together pieces of evidence that weren't actually there. Mom, with an aura of confidentiality, I think your sister is a lesbian. Me, why would you think that? Mom, well, she's a theater kid, yet the close friends she's made in college are all on the volleyball team. One of them must be a girlfriend. Me, is there anything other reason you think that, other than that theater kids don't hang out with volleyball players unless they're all lesbians? Mom, no, not really. A few months later, my sister tells me, don't tell mom, but I'm a lesbian. Someone who has severe hearing loss but insists the reason he has to say what all the time is because everyone mumbles louder for the people in the back and the people in the front. Now if you just stop mumbling we could all hear you. I know a guy who tested positive for HIV about 11 years ago. He pretended it didn't happen and did nothing about it. Today he is dying of AIDS. He's not even 40. So sad. Does that mean he also kept having sex and didn't even bother telling potential partners about his status? It's sad that someone would allow themselves to wither away like that, but if they were going around potentially spreading HIV/AIDS, that makes them a fucking monster. My mom's logic. It's not incest since you both were adopted. My brother is 2 years older than me, and sexually molested me from the time I was 6 and until I was about 10. Yes, we are both from an orphanage, and were adopted 2 years apart. While factually it is true it wasn't incest, the power dynamics absolutely were wrong. WTF, why did it matter if it was incest or not? Had a friend who never held a job. Their parents paid for their cars for 6 years of college plus an apartment in a very expensive city. For 3 of those years they also built a artist studio for them. They were convinced that their family wasn't wealthy. Me, thinking I'll get in better shape and lose some weight while doing literally nothing to make it happen. As someone who turned 40 last year and had my doctor say you need to lose 30 pounds and stop drinking or you're going to die in your sleep, it put a fire on my ass. I started small with 15 minutes jogging and dug the old rowing machine I had in the garage out and set it up. But I made it a point to do it every day. That was the 1st of November. Now I'm 16 pounds down. I do 40 minutes rowing or an hour to an hour and a half biking every day, and take a fiber supplement, and really deciding to choose to not overeat. It's not going fast, but it is going, and I certainly look and feel better than I did 2 months ago. All the non-profits that I've worked for that are supposed to help low-income people, and most of the people working there are also low-income people. This, I have a master's degree, making 45k a year as an event planner that raised millions a year for a not-for-profit, but I was so poor if I had a child I could have qualified for their services. My elderly friend who has fallen 4 times already, breaking 2 ribs once, a wrist once, and bruised up the other times. He still refuses to use a cane out of some male pride thing. He can't understand that we all age, and if he keeps falling he will end up with a broken hip and bedridden and miserable. We had to give my stubborn AF grandpa a super cool hiking stick to overcome that hump. Probably my BF's mother. They live in squalor, have totally ruined their house by neglecting all responsibilities for 20 plus years. Won't allow anyone into it because it's so dirty. The property is full of junked cars, poison ivy and stray trash. She brags about their great house, how much money they have, so then pay your personal property taxes which are overdue 5 years, which won't happen because they eat out for every meal since the kitchen is out of order. She's an alcoholic and completely dependent on weed. Where is it that you can be behind on property taxes for 5 years? Where I'll live you get 3 max before the house gets put up for sale due to tax arrears. Even then they would need to pay back taxes in full plus interest. My mom has been a smoker for 40 years. She was diagnosed with COPD. Good news is she can spend $400 a month on an inhaler that makes her feel better. No need to give up smoking, clearly. My dad got COPD from 40 years smoking. Eventually stopped, thankfully, but still will come up with random conspiracy theories about why his lungs are fucked, on oxygen 24/7 now. Things like the area I lived in for a couple years as a student was polluted. My mom was complaining about a sister-in-law of her niece who went back to a man that encourages her drug use and physically abuses her. My mom kept calling her so stupid and seemed so much like I can't believe she is doing this, when she was with my father who was also a drug dealer and he physically abused her. She also have a few other relationships with that same dynamic. Like, did you forget who you were? I would have pointed it out to her, but it was Christmas and I wasn't in the mood to kill my own vibe. I think she's talking to her younger self more than shaming the girl. Had a friend planning weekends away and activities when they were 9 months pregnant and about to drop. Think they were just scared and trying not to think about it. Depending on what a weekend away means, like across town or across the country, when I was due with both my kids I pretty much carried on as usual. You never know if babies will be born months early or weeks late, so there's no sense in pausing everything just in case. Obviously it's not the time to travel overseas or climb a mountain. My grandmother was appalled that I was grocery shopping and getting lunch with friends at 38 weeks pregnant. But as long as I was within driving distance of a hospital, what difference does it make if I'm pacing the aisles of Walmart or my own living room? Slapper depends on in case your water breaks and carry on. It's probably the most rested and best you're going to feel in the next 6 months with a newborn lol. My mom, there are no gay people in India. Her wondering why one of her friend's son is not interested in meeting any girls and me explaining that he's gay. Someone needs to introduce this woman to the guy from Tofu who tried to say he was gay to get out of an arranged marriage and his parents just put together a binder of eligible young Indian men instead. My family, when my mom was diagnosed with a hereditary, incurable, no survival rate over 4 years cancer. We all thought she'd be the one to beat it. She was gone within a year at 55 yo. No amount of good diet, exercise, education can beat bad genes and life's unfairness. The facts were there, it was still like a freight train hit us. I'm so sorry for your loss. 55 is so young. About 6-8 years ago on a visit home, my always slightly soft, not quite chubby brother was impressively thin. My dad, the quintessential almond dad, was raving about how proud he was that my brother had lost all this weight, that he packed his lunches and had a physically demanding job and had been working hard at it. I said, "Are you sure?" And my dad was absolutely sure. It was extremely clear to me even then, and came out about 5 years later, that that was the first year of my brother's heroin use. Damn, that's sad. How's he doing now? My stepdad's co-worker got 3 different vasectomies. His wife kept getting pregnant each time, and he insisted the doctor had somehow botched the procedure. After the 3rd vasectomy, she turned up pregnant again, and the doctor told him, "There's nothing left of your vas deferens. Have you considered she may be cheating on you?" After vasectomy number 2, this seems irresponsible on the part of the medical professionals. Certainly they could have screened his emissions for any evidence of sperm before doing another surgery. My dad having married a man and then turning around to beat my ass because I said I was bi. It's different for your dad. He and his husband always make sure to say no homo after, so they're not actually gay. The marriage is just for the health insurance. IDK. But immediately above this on my feed was a screenshot from Grindr where someone said, "Honestly have no interest in men. Sex is just sex to me." In statistics on HIV you will see the term men who have sex with men. This is done because there is a statistically relevant population that will answer no to being gay but has sex with other men. My older sister, 39, having 4 kids, living in my parents' house without paying rent since she got pregnant the first time with 17. Her oldest was practically raised by my parents, receiving much financial and emotional support through the years by our parents. She is saying she never receives any help by our parents, that she doesn't feel welcome at home anymore, and that our younger sister and I are favored. I have a sibling who received somewhere around $4,000 from our parents for a car loan. They never paid it back and insist they've never gotten financial help from our parents. I still can't figure out how that works, but okay. There was a woman who made a post in some relationship related subreddit a few days ago, who was looking to reconnect with her 2 adult sons who she had not spoken to in almost a decade. She insisted she was a good mom and that there was no reason her sons would not talk to her, and was completely confused when people were telling her to be introspective and figure out what she did to them, because people don't just stop talking to their parents for nearly a decade for no reason. The missing reasons. https://www.iceandday.com/psychology/estrangement/missing-reasons.html. My mother, diagnosed as diabetic over 20 years ago, has become convinced that insulin is making her unwell and that she doesn't need to check her blood glucose levels anymore. Needless to say, she's heading towards her 4th hospitalization in 6 months. Cool, mum. Cool. A short list of my parents' greatest hits. Bought me a pride flag patch aged 16 because I told them it was a symbol of God's promise to Noah. Ignored their teenage daughter's sudden change after turning 18 to having short red hair, pride flag pleather jacket, binder and boxer briefs, and an internship at a gay youth org. When I later won a gay scholarship to university, they told me it was good I was taking money away from the gays and pretending to be an ally, but that they couldn't drop me at the acceptance ceremony. BC, they couldn't be that near gay people. Get a woman to drop you home. Gay men are perverts. The lovely older butch woman who dropped me home was very amused. I have now been living with my wife for 10 years, on testosterone. I'm a non-binary lesbian, for about 1 year, and we live just down the road from them, so they see us come by. My parents are still convinced that I am straight, single, and a Christian virgin, and just focused on my career and living with flatmates. Oh, and that the drop in my voice is a sign that I'm aging badly and need to buy eye cream. A girl I went to school with. We were on friendly terms many years after school, never got a job and still lives on governmental pay. She first got one child, moved from place to place because she got evicted due to lack of rent. Blew all her money on crap the moment she got them. CPS placed the child in permanent foster care. And she repeated the same with 2 other children. She is now 40, none of her 3 children have any relationship to her, she still get evicted all the time. Still blows her money on crap. And still thinks she is fine. She is a good mother and all her issues is everyone else's fault. All in all, very sad. Stories like these always make me reevaluate my situation, and it makes me realize that there's far worse things than living paycheck to paycheck. A former friend of mine comes to mind. She lives with her husband, 3 kids and mother. The total household income is only $2,000 a month. Rent is $1,500. They are 3 months behind on rent. She says it's okay, they won't get evicted. Oh, and the reason for being so far behind is they bought a second car even though they absolutely cannot afford and definitely don't need it. Glamour photos at $600 a pop for her. Getting nails and hair dyed at the salon once a month. She has no idea how screwed they all are. I feel so bad for the kids. While it can take a while to get evicted, it's going to happen. Finding a place to live after that is going to be tough. I too feel bad for the kids. My mother has sat through 2 court cases for her children and seen 2 sons go to prison. I have spent 15 years explaining, or trying to her why so many of her kids turn to alcohol, child pornography or violence. She has gone through phases of no contact where her kids won't talk to her, or won't let her see grandkids. But just a few days ago before Christmas she denied that anything bad happened in the family or that there was any abuse. No, her children just mysteriously start to act weird in their mid-20s. What did happen to cause them to do that? My sister wanting to dress up as a backwoods hillbilly for Halloween. Her costume idea was a fake pregnant belly, can of Bud Light, cigarette hanging from her mouth, and a black eye. It would have been a funny, albeit slightly offensive, costume had it not been for the fact that she had just finished her pregnancy that she smoked and drank through in its entirety while also on Suboxone. Thank God her baby was born without any major complications, other than going through withdrawals from the Suboxone. That poor fucking baby. I dated a drug addict for 3 years and watching him withdraw every weekend from Suboxone, or something else periodically, was so awful. I don't feel bad for him, but my heart goes out to the poor infant who came into this world with that kind of pain and misery. Me, when I thought I could help my mom and that it was my job to make her happier. She screwed up her life and made every choice that got her where she is today, and continues to make poor choices all the time. It took years and years for me to realize there's nothing I can do except call her occasionally and say I love you, and it's not my fault she lives the way she does. Two kinds. There are the hoarders whose home is completely messy and decrepit, stocked and ransacked with absolutely unnecessary and disgusting stuff. Then you got the other kind. The people living in unaddressed massive debt that keep spending money they don't have and using or getting new credit cards when they max out. I'm not better than that, in fact I broke free of both those situations the end of last year, but it was truly eye-opening. Mental illness can rot your life from the inside out without any mercy if left unchecked and untreated. Yikes. This internet stranger is very proud of you. My dad doesn't want a hearing aid because he thinks it will make him look old. I tried to tell him that what makes him look really old is mishearing things all the time, but he didn't hear me. My sister is convinced she has a mystery ailment that no doctor can diagnose, and that's why she's lost an absurd amount of weight. She forgets to mention the Adderall she's snorting all the time. Denial is incredibly useful. So the clearest case I've seen is me and my husband all of 2022. Melanoma went to stage 4. Somehow, he had no pain and felt fine until the last week of his life. We had a great time together. He didn't want anyone to know he was sick until he felt sick, and he didn't feel sick until his last week of life, so nobody knew. He went back up north that summer for a few weeks to hang out with his brother and his friends and go see his mom, and had truly a great time. We did a trip to Mexico, and 2 months later he was dead. But my goal that year was to feed him everything he liked as much as possible, and make him laugh. It was successful. Thank you, Denial, for making his last year special. I'm in a medical stats program. This statistic for a population in Mississippi was depressing. 85% of target group lives on a household income $35,000 or less per year. 85% of same target group thinks that medical funding for the poor doesn't do any good and shouldn't be wasted on helping the poor. This is absolute insanity. Like they don't even seem to realize they are the poor being offered help. They somehow use the cult thinking of system justification to somehow exclude themselves from thinking they are the poor. Broadly speaking, parents who think their kids are so smart BC they can use an iPad. Like, wow, he can click the next video, great. But he's almost 5 and can't count and doesn't know his letters, and you kept him out of preschool because he's not ready yet. Maybe reevaluate what's important. The husband in the There's Something Wrong with Aunt Diane documentary. To quote my grandmother regarding my grandfather, everyone keeps saying complete bone marrow failure like it is a big deal. She was shocked when he died a month later. One of my colleagues constantly shouts and roars at her class, to the extent that I worry she's a competency hearing waiting to happen. I've witnessed it, and I'm talking properly aggressive, red in the face bellowing, often for things that most of us probably wouldn't even raise our voices over. She doesn't see this as an issue though, because she claims she's a naturally loud person. Someone I knew had their dog die of some disease. She successfully convinced herself that her dog was taken to some farm to frolic in the grass or some shit. She was the type of person that couldn't take bad news. Everything had to be good and bad things just didn't exist to her. But if she was aware of bad things happening, she would take it out on everyone for making her feel horrible while she just rotted. Clear delusion.